world cruiserweight champion in boxing, Sky analyst, and British boxing royalty. It is another episode of Sit Down with Sanderson, and I'm delighted to be joined by the one, the only Johhny Nelson. Sit back, relax, let's get into it. Mr. Johhny Nelson, welcome to the Sanderson Show. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good, very good. I'm very good. All good, thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this. Before we get started, I do have to shout out a special person, Mr. Charles Lawrence, who was the person behind this collaboration and behind putting me in contact with you. So shout out to Charles. Johhny, please start off by telling us a bit about your background, where you grew up, and how you got into boxing, please.
I'm a young kid from Sheffield, brought up on 36 Sydney Road in Crooks in Sheffield. Anybody that's familiar with Sheffield and know Crooks. And I come from a family of 7 children. Just one of them girls. And she was like, she could fight. And she could always beat me up all the way when I was at school. We never had money,
I have two sons.
I keep laughing and joking about.
I have 2 sons and a daughter, and my daughter seems like she's going to be the fighter in the family as well. It's crazy.
That's right. My mum always said with my sister, she said she's the only one that's got a head on her shoulders. And why is it foolish? So with in our house, and we were, I say broke, but I said broke. There's a difference. Broke is you got things to sell and make a bit of dough on. We were broke. We had nothing. But that's visually. But as a family, we were wealthy. And in that, to me, as a father now, the one thing I class as wealth is family. And regardless of your relationship, because obviously not everybody goes through relationships where they stay with their partner forever. And it's not about that. It's about the relationship you have with your children that you both brought into this world. So even if you two aren't together, those kids have got to understand that you are home wherever you are. You are their safe spot. You are their security. You are their sanctuary. I live in my house by myself. My house is up to my kids, my girls. My girls are 30, 33, 32, 33, 28, 26. Every one of them's got their own house. Everyone's got a key for my house. I shop every week as I'm shopping for everybody, not knowing if they're coming around or not. But they need to. I want them to understand my home will always be their home, no matter what happens in life. And so that kind of security, that kind of blanket, even though it may not be taken advantage of, that's what was important to me growing up. I never wanted for anything. I didn't want to be an astronaut. I didn't want to be a world champion. I didn't want to be a superstar. I was a mama's boy. And so that was a hindrance and a help, should I say, in regards to my boxing career, because it was a hindrance in regards to desire. I didn't really want anything because I was good. I had my family. A help because once I understood and felt like the gym was my second home, I felt very comfortable there. But these things take time. It's like the new boy at school. So I felt very comfortable in the ring. Eventually, when I realised, I'm feeling this. So it's a deep thought through process. I don't think we got time for that on this one, but I was fortunate enough to come across the right people in life.
Amazing. I've got to start off by asking you a question. I only found this out recently from doing a little bit of research. Your name's not actually Johhny. It's Ivanson Ranny Nelson. Please tell us how the name Johhny came about and why we all know you and love you as Johhny Nelson.
Well, in most West Indian homes, and you'll know, you're a house name and a street name. So I can never actually be called I can never actually remember being called Ivinson, because when I first started school, I was, as I said, I was a mummy's boy. I was a bit of a shy kid, and when I first started school, and I didn't. If I spoke to adults, I'd get upset, and I was just a shy kid, and so I found they struggled to say Ivinson. They kept saying Iverson or Ivolson or what. I'm like, no, it's Ivinson, and they just kept saying it wrong in my head. And it was a Catholic school, and the teacher said, "I tell you what, just for today, because she was trying to get through the register, let's just pick him a class for today until we all get used to saying Iverson. It's Ivinson's name." So he heard someone's called Morris. He said, "What should we call him today?" And he put his hand up. "Let's call him Morris." No, no, no. And we went through all the apostles, and we got to John, and and she said, "No, no, we've got 4 Johns already in the class," and one kid shouted, "Let's call him Johhny." And one of the kids started sniggering, because as kids, you know what a rubber Johnny is. You know what a rubber Johnny is, don't you? A condom.
No.
That was the name.
So
Let's call him.
we don't.
And so,
All right, we don't
no,
call
oh
it
my
Johhny.
God.
No, we don't call it Johnny. We call it a Jimmy.
No, okay then. So at school, that's why
Okay.
people don't understand when I say it. So at school, the kids started laughing, and so they were laughing because from that point onwards, they'd be saying, "Can I buy you rubber Johnny?" So they'd be calling me rubber Johnny. So the
Yeah.
teacher didn't understand that. She went, "Yes, Johnny's a lovely name." So all the way through my school infant years, I was like rubber Johnny, and with that tattoos and everything, and that's how Johnny came about. And so, but I can never remember being called Ivinson, apart from my biological dad. I've always remembered being called Johnny. Ronnie, on the other hand, when I met my biological dad when he was in my 30s, I said, "Where's the name come from?" And he said, "What do you mean?" Because my dad is from Dominica. And he
Okay.
said, Ivinson was a famous fighter on the island of Dominica. I went, "Yeah, yeah, right." And he said, and Ronnie is after the comedian. I said, "What comedian?" He said, "You know, Ronnie Corbett." I said, "It's Ronnie Corbett." He did.
That's the
He
accent.
went,
It's
"No,
the accent.
yeah, it's the accent." He went, "Yeah, Ronnie Corbett." I went, "Ronnie, yes, Ronnie." And so you can imagine him going to the registrar office, calling me Ronnie in his head, and she's
Yeah.
writing down what he sounds like. That was it. And so that's I'm named after a little 4-foot white comedian. but I laugh about it now, but I didn't like it when I was younger. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
But now, yeah, the only person that calls me Adamson is my biological dad. Whenever I see him, and that's it. And my sister when she's trying to tell me off.
As they do. Johhny, we're going to speak about your boxing career, because you've had one of the most incredible boxing careers. You went from being undesirable to undeniable. You became world champion, if I'm not mistaken, on your 3rd attempt, right? So the first 2 didn't go your way. Tell us about the first 2
No,
attempts, and do you think that shaped you into being the man and the fighter you became?
without a doubt. The first attempt at the world title, I actually didn't lose. I drew. People
That's
forget
true, yeah.
that. The fight was just boring and terrible. I
Mm.
drew. It wasn't until, literally a few months ago, I realised when I actually boxed for the world title, the WBC cruiserweight title of the world, I'd been boxing professionally for only 4 years. 4 years. So I had 13 amateur fights. I only won 3. That's how
Yeah.
bad I was. I was a terrible amateur.
Yeah.
I turned professional, and in 4 years of turning professional and losing my first 3 professional fights on the trot and having no amateur pedigree, I boxed for a world title and drew. And so I actually look back thinking, actually, I
Not
didn't do
bad.
bad, because
No.
something like me should have got blasted out, because Carlos de Leon was like an experienced champion, experienced fighter. So some novice like me getting in there with him, I drew. I'm glad I didn't win in hindsight, because I knew if I didn't win, I'd have lost it in my next first or second defense. The reason being is because I was a boy in a man's body. I wasn't. Now, once I became champion, I understood the responsibility of being a champion, and I knew if I'd have won it the first time, I wasn't responsible or mature enough to deal with being a world champion. But it showed me the cruel side of human nature, where people can be so nice when they want to be and switch on a dime in a heartbeat. And I
Yeah.
saw that side of people before I boxed for the WBC title. I had so many friends you couldn't even count. As soon as the fight went the way it went, the people were wicked. They were cruel. They were wicked. They were horrible, and they had no shame about it. And so it made me start to grow up. And I had to understand why that happened. And as I said, I've just realised I've done me boxing 4 years as a professional since when I boxed for Rotal. But I was a shy kid. Remember, I first told you as a child I was a shy kid,
Yeah.
and that shyness was that I just didn't have confidence. I didn't have self belief. I didn't. I used to think upside down. So when I was nervous, I thought I was scared. So when I won a fight, I didn't think I was good. I just thought they were bad. So
Oh,
I never
okay.
gave myself credit. So when it came to having the real fight, oh my God, what am I going to do here? And so my confidence was, that of a shy boy that used to cry when adults spoke to him. And it took time. And Brendan said, look, you ain't going to come into your own until you're in your late 20s, 30s. I'm like, that's old. Um, and so, but he was right. I had to grow up.
You speak about Brendan Ingle, and obviously, again, from watching your documentaries and knowing about your history, I don't know if you get this comparison a lot. Your relationship with Brendan Ingle reminds me personally a lot of Mike Tyson's relationship with Customato. Mike Tyson constantly spoke about how
Mm.
he
I'd
almost
agree with you.
he reprogrammed his mind and made him go from this kid who really didn't know or have much going for himself to being the world champion. From the sounds of how you were as a child, Brendan Ingle did that for you. Would you say he was sort of the first father figure / mentor that came into your life and helped shape your life?
Without a doubt. I would not be the person I am today. Never mean the fighter I was yesterday if it wasn't for Brendan. I had no interest in boxing. The downside of going to the boxing club for me was having to box. I
Mm.
only went to the club to make friends. Brendan brainwashed me. And he'll tell me he brainwashes me and he laughs about it in a positive way. This guy, he wasn't just a friend, he was a mentor, he was a teacher. My education started when I met Brendan, not at school. I left school with no qualifications. My
Mm.
education started in regards to talking to people, in regards to the world, in regards to books and everything from Brendan. And his words, what always rings out was, schools teach you to remember. I'm going to teach you to think.
Mm.
Thinking will get you around the world. And you'll have a load of geeks out. I'm good at this. You've got to give them respect for that because they can remember stuff that was in the book.
Yeah.
Put them in a situation where they got to think, and that's a completely different ball game. That'll take you around the world. And that Brendan taught me life skills, and and I'll always quote him because he was an amazing man. And and I think, and I was the chip. I was like the tip of the iceberg. There's so many other people that were fortunate enough to be tutored or be guided by Brendan that you and I don't even know about. At his funeral, there were so many people there, thousands outside the cathedral. And all these people saying, Brendan, help me this. And I'm thinking, when did Brendan have time for you lot?
Mm.
But this guy, you see, you get fighters out there and they have trainers and coaches. There's no real coaches left. Coaching isn't about telling you how to hit a bag, or how many miles to run, or how many press ups to do, or how many rounds to box. Coaching is not just that. It's not just the physical. It's the mental. Your
Yeah.
coach needs to understand your psyche, understand you as an individual, understands what motivates you, understand what fears you, understand what takes your drive away. Your coach, and that's what a coach is. David Beckham wouldn't be David Beckham without Sir Alex Ferguson. Prince Nassim Hamid won't be Prince Nassim Hamid without Brendan. So we all need someone to tweak us, put us in the right direction. They can see something we can't see. That we actually say, I get that. And Brendan is that guy, was that guy.
Given your experiences in boxing and just in life, have you ever considered coaching on a full-time basis?
I've been asked many times um, if I'd coach fighters, and I saw how Brendan, from a thick head of black hair, turned to grey hair, turned to bald head. He had gone. The stresses and strains of having to deal with not just the fighters, their families, and their family problems. And I always remember 98% of the time, Brendan was always at the gym. Whenever I was there, he was there. I'd go there 3 o'clock in the morning training. And he gave me a key, which I felt, what a special man. Gave me a key to go to the gym. One time, 3 o'clock in the morning, Brendan popped his head around the door as I was doing my footwork. Must have been about 3:30, 4:45. And I'm like, and he just said, "You all right?" I went, "Yeah, Bren." Then he went. I couldn't believe it because he lived across the road. So if I was going to be a coach, I'd have to be a coach that if I was coaching somebody, I was there. I would give him the time and my effort. And I haven't got the time because I'm in London, I'm working all over the place. And if I want to be an honest trainer and comfortable with who I am, then that's what I should be doing for my fighter. Until I can give the same commitment Brendan gave to me, I won't do it. And that's not. And I could easily do it and rip the fighters off. Well, to me, it's wrong because as an ex-fighter, why would I be doing the things that me and Brendan used to call out and cuss out when other people were doing it? So if you're a coach, you're a coach. You're there for that fighter. You're not there. It's not about the dough. So but the dough comes afterwards. It's not about the dough. You've got to give your heart and soul to him. But I can remember Brendan. Sometimes you get promoters saying, "Here, Bren, I'll give you, a backhander." I'll give you an example. Say you're a fighter, and Brendan's training you, and I'm the promoter, and I said to Brendan, I've got a good kid here I'm trying to build up. He said, "Your kid will probably get beat." He said, "But I'm struggling to get him an opponent, so I'm going to give you 10 grand. Just tell your kid you're giving him 5 grand, and you can keep that in your pocket for get me opponent." And so Brendan say, "Yeah, you get 10 grand." Then he come to you and say, "Listen to me. He's given me 10 grand, but he's told me he's giving you 5 grand. So he's told me to pay you 5 grand, but you're getting 10 grand. I'm taking my cut out of the 10 grand as I would out of the 5 grand. But don't let him know that I've told you that he's giving me 10 grand." And so,
Honorable.
and the question is, well, why would you tell him? Because you get away with it. Brendan could have got away with that many times. And he said, the second you let someone have you by the balls, they've got you.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that stops me, the promoter, going to you directly and say, "Yo, listen to me. What if you beat his up-and-coming fighter and he saw you was good and he wanted to teeth you off Brendan?"
Yeah.
That promoter could go to you directly and say, "Listen to me. I gave Brendan 10 grand, for you. How much did he give you?" And so all of a sudden, it's divide and conquer. Brendan would never. He was 10 steps ahead of them all. He educated him on the job. He showed us about the inside and outside of boxing. So that's why promoters, the only way promoters could get into a fight was because the fighter was greedy.
Yeah.
Or they were stupid. And Brendan was straight and he was honourable with you. He was a good guy. He was right. How he did it, he said, "Look, I'm on 25% of everything. So if you box, I'm on 25%. If you get £100, I'm on 25%. If you get £1 million, I'm on 25%. If you get 10 million, I'm on 25%. That's the deal." Unfortunately, people get greedy when he gets to 10 million.
Yeah.
When he gets to 1 million. No, I don't want to give you 25%. That £25 out of £100 won't even put petrol in your car to get up the street.
Yeah.
So if you get back the early days, so when the big money comes, and that's the problem. That's why Brendan rated him massively.
Yeah. Can imagine, and rightly so, and rest his soul as well. Want to move off boxing and speak about you as an analyst. Now, one of the things I realize is from fighters can be very sensitive, and rightly so. They're putting themselves out there to the whole world, and anything can happen when they're in that ring. And often they say when people criticize them, "You couldn't do what I do," and they're 100% right. It takes a small minority to do it. However, you have done it. How do they take it when you criticize them? For example, if they have a bad performance and Johhny Nelson goes, "That was a bad performance for XYZ," how do they receive that in comparison to if they were receiving it from me, someone who's not a fighter?
Well, if someone that's not done it, it hurts more when somebody, it pisses you off more when somebody that hasn't done it starts telling you you've done it wrong. Because even if you're right, who are you to tell me I'm doing it wrong? Because you're not doing it yourself. But if I've done it and I tell them the same thing, they might not like it, but you've got to accept it because you think, you know what? Because sometimes gym conversation, if you heard conversation between fighters in the gym and you were a non-fighter, you think, oh my God, do you hear what he said? It's like AJ and Carl Froch. AJ Froch is giving AJ a stick and AJ's coming back at him. This is gym banter, but they're familiar with each other. So with them two, it no nothing. But to everybody else, oh my God, you hear what he said? So a fighter that understands it and he's honest with it, saying it about another fighter, it's fight conversation, it's fight language, and you think, and you know, you can't bullshit another fighter that knows what he's doing. You can bullshit someone that's never done it. So when they tell you you're no good, you can cuss them out, and you've got every right to cuss them out, even if they're right. But with another fight, and I know for a fact when I do it sometimes, I know certain fighters don't like it because they'll be trying to fool the masses, and I'll publicly say, no, it's full of shit. That's rubbish. So he's like, "You grass, why are you telling them?" But if I'm asked the question, I'll give the answer, because if I'm gonna lie today, and you ask me the same question next year, I'm not gonna remember the lie.
Yeah.
But if I'm gonna tell the truth today, you ask me the same question next year, I remember the truth. I'm just gonna give you my opinion. I'm not telling you what it is. I'm saying this is what I think, and I'll give you a reason why I think that. And you'll understand the methodical reason why I think that. I'm not just going to say it just to stand out and say, yeah, look at me, I said something bad. Because people don't respect that. Now and again, you'll say something really stupid just to have a laugh and wind people up about it. But to me, when it comes to fight game, I love AJ. You know, AJ, I think what he's done for British boxing is mad. No, world boxing is mad.
Incredible.
Mad. And people will never understand how much he's actually done in so little time. It's mad. But if he messes up, you're going to tell him. You can't give him a bye. You're doing this wrong, man. And you got to call it out. Because if you have everybody telling you you're doing everything right and you're God and you're blah, 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 and they're not telling you where you're going wrong, then what happens is, who's your guiding force? Who's your guiding light? How are you going to learn? Because nobody's telling you how it is. You know, so if you mess up, you can always learn from wiser people. You can't don't listen to everybody. If you're going to listen, you learn, get your mistakes from everybody else. Make them make the mistakes. When they've made the mistakes, and then you move on. That's how you want to drop it.
Yeah, completely agree. Great analysis there as well. Now, obviously, you transitioned from being a boxer to an analyst, and one of the shows that I grew up watching that I loved was Ringside on Sky Sports, with you and Adam Smith.
Oh.
How did that come about, and how was it when you started doing that show? Because there's so many iconic moments from that.
You know what? It wasn't just down to Adam and myself. It was down to the people behind the camera, the producers, the directors. Charles Lawrence, he was one of them that worked on it a lot. To produce something like this, and it was collective ideas. And the idea was initially, again, a gym conversation where you had fighters that if you were from the public and you saw fighters talking to each other, you'd be shocked at what's said. Now, Ringside was like the magazine show. The idea was to get Fighter A, that's fighting Fighter B, it was like a watered down version of The Gloves Are Off. It was like so get them in there, talk about the fight, and just talk about a bit of history of the show, history of boxing, talk about anniversaries, talk about fights coming up, talk about rivals coming up, and now and again you get them in. Do you remember David Hay and Vladimir Klitschko? No, and type of Vladimir Klitschko. You forget that one. David Hay wouldn't come in the studio. David Hay stayed in the green room.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And people are like, oh my God, you've seen this.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't very often we did it live. And so that was the beginning of The Gloves Are Off. But that was the show. That's a show that to me was a good, if you're a boxing fan, it was a good magazine show. If you were a boxing fan and you wanted to create something to build up a fight coming up, it was a good show for the fans to follow and watch. It's something you can actually take into theatres and studios now. And it was fun. We had a good time. We had a good laugh. We had Tyson on there, Larry Holmes on there.
Yes.
Sugar Ray came on, I'm sure he did. Tyson Fury, Klitschko, Hay. George
where Frotch was
Groves,
like he's
Paul
gonna
Froch,
cry. Yeah,
yeah, James DeGale, all of them
yeah,
things there,
yeah.
and it was good. Yeah.
Again, you were part of so many viral moments that were on ringside, but also you mentioned the gloves are off. You think about Dylan White and Derek Chisora. You think about Frotch Groves where Frotch pulls his hand. How do you deal with those situations? You again, an ex-fighter, but you know how temperamental human beings can be. How do you deal with that? And then obviously the one that wasn't really ever shown was AJ and Big Baby Miller. Like, how do
So
you deal with all of those different personalities?
So I think with that one, I always believe to do a show like that, you've got to be an ex-fighter for a couple of reasons. One, to get the respect of the other fighters that are around the table. Two, to get the respect to be able to ask certain questions that somebody that's never boxed can't ask. Because if you ask a stupid question, and it's not just boxing, in any sport, when they get a reporter in front of them, who's a reporter knows nothing about the sport, you're not going to get the respect from the fighters. They're going to give you an answer, throwaway answer, because they think, you know what, you don't deserve anywhere near the truth. You know, I ain't telling you, I ain't getting into it. But if it's a fighter, he understands bullshit. He sees gym bullshit. He sees bravado. He sees someone that's trying to play the fool to get. He sees that sort, so he can have the conversation. Like I could say something like, you know, was you scared? What was going on there? Nobody. If you have never boxed, you can never ask that question.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of respect between the fighters and the other fighters. Number one. Number two, you understand the temperament and you understand gym language. And you understand the first one that told me this is something special was Carl Froch and George Groves when he pulled him down. I'm pulling up my mind. You know, that was the first one for a while. And then you could see what was going on here. So if there was a real, you could always tell who was frontward, who wasn't. He wasn't frontward. Dylan White, Derek Chisora. We could only show 22 minutes of that show. Sorry, 19 minutes of that show, because they broke out fine. Now, the footage is still there of the fight. It's in archive at Sky, because the cameraman, big fella Scott, he had his camera on his shoulder. And when they're fighting, they're dragging all over the place, and there's water all over the place, trying to drag them apart, get one of them out, get their crews coming in, all on camera. They had to cut the show. 19 minutes you saw on TV. It was the most hair-raising, gloves are off I've ever seen. Ever seen. And the things that were said, you'd think, why? That's something we'd say off camera.
Yeah.
and then you had AJ and Big Baby Miller. That never saw the light of day.
Yeah.
But you saw a different side to AJ. And I think AJ's people were worried about that showing. Fortunately, the fight didn't happen, which is why we didn't show it. But you saw a different side to AJ. So when those people that say he's just a show pony, trust me, you saw a different side to AJ.
Yeah.
And he dropped it on there. I'm like, shit. And these PR people said, you can't show that, you can't say that. And I'm like, damn. Lucky the fight never took place. Because the public were like, shit, really?
Was it
Great
that
show.
bad?
Great show, though. Bad, man. It was bad. But I actually sat there and looked at AJ and thought, good on you. Good on you, man. And part of AJ's frustration is when you see Dylan White, Derek Chisora, Tyson Fury saying and doing and cussing all these bad words and doing all these bad things, and they're vilified, and they get highs and lows, and he's trying to be a straight good guy. He's trying to be or portray himself as one, but he's always getting criticised. So he's at this point where it's like, nah, you know what? I'm gonna say it like they can do it, I can do it. But AJ don't understand his responsibility. The difference between him and them is he's a British sporting icon. He has lifted our sports to the level that none of them man could have done. And that's why he's up there, and that's why he's put on a higher pedestal. And he doesn't understand why he gets more attention, more flack, his name's mentioned more than anybody else, because he achieved something amazing. So unfortunately, that comes with it.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. With great power comes great responsibility, as they say in the movies. Just sticking with the heavyweight division for a minute or so. Usyk has pretty much cleared out the division, and he is unanimously and undeniably the best heavyweight. But now you've got people like AJ, Fury, and Wilder, who, apart from Wilder and Fury, never fought each other. They never did the roundabout. What is the future for the heavyweight division, and who do you see as the next up and coming guy to take the mantle and just run with it?
So unfortunately, that little roundabout, even if it happens now, and you're talking Tyson against AJ against Wilder,
it's not the same.
It's past the time when it was and AJ and Fury still will fill out a hole, because that's the fight that the public want to see. But it'll never be as it's not going to be as good as what it should have been years ago. Moses Atamu, young heavyweight coming through. Kid is on fire. He's on it. But then you look at Fabian Wardley, another one coming through. You look at a 27-year-old Danny Dubois that's had to go through the peaks and troughs. Now he's finding his own. That style suits a young man. And you've got Riyadh season. And Riyadh season, like it or not, is making all these dream fights happen. And all these dream fights happen because they put money on the table, and they basically said to the promoter, if you aren't going to take part, I'm going to offer this to your fighters. And your fighters are going to sack you and come for their money. So the promoters that hated each other, that can't even sit in the same mood as each other, now have got to pretend to be friends.
Yeah.
They got to play the game. It's like a parent coming in and conking your heads together, saying, be of yourself.
Yeah.
And making you get on with it. And that's basically what it's been.
As a fight fan, I love Riyadh season. And I think one thing Riyadh season has done for us as fight fans is put to bed the notion that fighters are scared to fight fighters. It's never been the case. It's always been promotional. It's always been timing. For me, if you are tough enough to step in a boxing ring, I'm going to say 99.9% of the time, you're not scared to fight another human being because you are built like that. So I'm glad that it's coming about.
With that, the public need to understand. You have promoters and managers and fighters. 9 times out of 10, the fighters want to fight each other. 9 times out of 10, the promoter will want to keep his golden goose winning. So he's not going to put him in a fight. He thinks, doesn't matter if it's true or not, he thinks his fight might not win.
Yeah.
So therefore, the promoter might not even tell the fighter that an opportunity is there for the fight, and they say, nah, it's rubbish, son. Because he's trying to save his business. Because the promoter's got 6, 7, 8, 9 other fighters he's got to feed and bring through. So you're not his priority. You are a priority, but not your priority. So he's not going to tell you everything. He's going to make sure his business is flourishing. He's not going to put you in a certain fight. So that's why certain fighters don't fight each other, because the promoter say, nah, you don't want to do that. And then the manager and promoter will get together. And because they want to keep their golden goose golden. And it's the fight that gets the flag. There's only 1 or 2 fighters that manage to get out of it and be like the mouthpiece of his own destiny. And then, you know what, then fighters can hide behind the promoter and say, you just sort that out. But 9 times out of 10, fighter A wants to fight fighter B.
Completely agree. Johhny, you've been really graceful with your time. I just want to end off by I'm going to ask my last question in a bit, but I want to do 5 quick fire questions. I don't even want you to think about it, just instincts take over and quick answers. Okay. So 1 cruiserweight from any era that you never got to fight, who would it be and why?
Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield. I never got to fight him. Thank God I didn't. But there was a guy called Juan Carlos Gomez. He was the WBC champion around the same time I was around. I wanted that fight because I knew I'd be able to unify the titles. And Juan Carlos Gomez was a Cuban defector. He moved over to Germany. And good fighter. I always wanted to fight him. The IBF champion was... And these 2 fighters, the WBC champion, the IBF champion, I want those fights because I knew I could unify the Cruiserweight Championship. These guys didn't want to do it. And they're the fights I wanted, but the fights I never got.
That's fair. The best fight you've watched live?
Best fight I've watched live, Nigel Benn against Jeremy McLaren. Live. Trust me.
Brilliant.
I was a boxer at the time, and I saw pure brutality in the ring.
Yeah.
I was scared.
Yeah.
It was like getting a baseball bat and smashing watermelons. This is how these guys were hitting each other. I'm whole man thinking, oh my God. And I was there in rings. I was watching the fight. I'm like, geez, Nigel Benn, listen to me. No matter what you say about Nigel Benn, he has the heart of a proper warrior because he got punched out the ring. Out the ring. Wouldn't give up.
That was one of the first fights I watched live as a child. And I just remember watching it and being like, these guys are savages. Just
complete savages.
Yeah.
Great. And that to me was one of the most brutal, exciting fights I've ever watched live.
The most underrated boxer that you've watched in your lifetime?
Harold Bomber Graham, originally from Nottingham, never won a world title. This guy, he was a magician, an absolute magician. His style, you looked at him, you thought, he ain't that. And Bomber he could punch, he could slip, he could move, he could everything. And he was so underrated. And anybody that knows anything about boxing, you mentioned Harold Bomber Graham, and they said he was the most talented fighter from Britain never to win a world title. Unbelievable fighter.
Yes. One boxer who never fulfilled their potential. I know you said an underrated boxer. One boxer who you think never fulfilled their potential.
Prince Naseem Hamed. Prince Naseem Hamed, Naz, did amazing things again for British boxing and Americans' views on British fighters. It should never have stopped there. Naz lost to Barrera. He lost to Barrera because Brendan said he thought he was chocolate. He started to eat himself. He thought he was that sweet. This guy, Naz, could fight. And Brendan said he could jump up the weights, 3-4 weights, and jump up. Naz got to the point where he just got greedy. Or, you know what, he decided to be a businessman as well as a fighter and run his own business. So from doing that, he didn't realise how important Brendan was to him and his career. Naz underachieved. He did amazing things, but I saw with my own eyes what this kid could do to bigger fighters. Outstanding.
He was brilliant. My favorite boxer when I was a kid as well was Prince Naseem. If you could make one dream match that's never happened between any boxers from any era, who would it be?
Wow. I'd do one. I'd do Jack Johnson, first black heavyweight champion, 2018, 1908, I think it was, against. Who would I put with George Foreman?
Oh,
Jack Johnson, old school George Foreman, because George was big and strong. But Jack Johnson, he was strong. His style was just aggressively bad man. But that, if you're not into boxing, you won't understand where I'm going there with that one. So I'll pick one that you might understand. Evander Holyfield against, let's say Evander Holyfield against Alexander Usyk.
Yes, that's the one. That's the one. Yes, definitely. That's the one for me. I love the Jack Johnson fight, by the way. Yeah, but yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Jack Johnson, bad man.
Yeah. Johhny, great answers. Right, finally, before I let you go, could you tell me one thing you're grateful for, one of your proudest achievements, and something you'd love to accomplish in the future?
One thing I'm grateful for is God giving me 3 beautiful daughters and blessing me with the one thing, you know what, I understood what true wealth is, and that's family. That's one thing I'm grateful for. So I'll always be grateful to God for that. What's the next one?
Your proudest achievement.
My proudest achievement was, of course, winning the world title for Brendan, because a kid that had 13 amateur fights, winning only 3, then losing his first 3 professional fights. Brendan got a lot of stick for sticking by me, bringing me through from scratch from the amateurs through to the professionals. And no matter what I did, I could never repay him for the loyalty he showed to me. So winning the world title was a great achievement, because it didn't just show that I was world champion, but it showed that Brendan Ingles' system worked. So I could give him something back, but nobody could buy, nobody could borrow, pretend to have, and that was the greatest feeling.
Amazing. And then something you'd love to accomplish in the future.
Something I'd love to accomplish in the future. Well, Brendan was a massive influence on my life, and so if I can even emulate 1% of what he did, in Sheffield in the community, I would do. And I've started working on that, and I got an MBE. And Brendan wanted me to get an MBE, and at first I said, "Nah, man." And then when it came out next time, I thought, "Brendan, you're all right. Got the MBE." And so now I'm looking to open children's homes in Sheffield, and because I understood opening children's homes, how much of an effect you can have on individuals if you just talk to them right, understand where they're coming from, understand that we're about. So I'm in the process of doing that now, trying to get everything through Ofsted. I'm trying to get funding for it, which is hard, but I'll do it. I'll get it there somewhere. It's not a charity status, so it's got to, it's harder that way. And the homes will be called Cynthia Care. Cynthia is my mother, and call it Cynthia Cares because how she opened her home up to everybody. It's that mindset, that language, that understanding that Cynthia Care will be all about. So what I hope to achieve in the future is probably have Cynthia Care all over Yorkshire, left, right, and centre. And you never know, inspire others to do that in their cities, towns, or counties.
That's amazing, Johhny. And again, these are things that having these interviews allow us to find out about yourself and stuff you're doing. So again, thanks for sharing that information, Johhny. It's been an absolute pleasure for me. It's been an honor to do this.
It was a pleasure.
A shout out to Charles again for making this happen as well. A great guy as well. And yeah, Johhny, you are fantastic. You're a credit to not only the boxing community but just the British public in general. So once again, thank you so much for doing this. And yeah, I'd love to be able to do this again as well.
Anytime, brother. You got me. Anytime. You got my number.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, people, that is it for this episode of Sit Down with Sanderson. Please do smash the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. But more importantly, the links to all of Johhny's social media, etc., will be in the description. So make sure you go and support the man, the myth, the legend. My name is Callum, signing out. Thank you all for watching and listening. Take care, everyone.
Peace.